Buenos días, good morning, greetings
Good morning.
from Studio 5 of Radio Televisión Española en Cataluña. Welcome to the second day of the Future of Tourism World Summit, Barcelona 21, promoted and organized by the INCIDE Foundation of the Spanish Chambers of Commerce, the Advanced Leadership Foundation, and the United Nations World Tourism Organization. We are going to open the first discussion table. ¿Estamos haciendo lo suficiente para que el turismo sea accesible
Are we doing
para
enough
todos?
so
Esa es la
tourism is
pregunta.
accessible to all of us? It is the way to guarantee that destinations, touristic products are adapted to all of us, regardless from age, physical limitations or whatever. What else can we do to decrease the difficulties of access? These are the questions that will be discussed by our speakers in our first table of discussion. I want to welcome Isabel Novoa. She's the president of the organization, the International Organization of Social Tourism. She will be in Zoom, on the Zoom. Javier González, president of the Iberoamericana Red de Turismo Accesible and the Secretary General of FEDESUD. And also via online, José Luis Borau of the Foundation ONCE. Be all welcome and thanks to the Professor Salvador Antón. He is the chair of Geographical and Regional Analysis of the University Rovira y Virgili. Professor Antón, you can get in this
para poner encima de la mesa esas cuestiones que os contaba al principio, cómo hacer más accesible el turismo para todos.
Get tourism more accessible to all of us. Professor Antón, thank you very much. Marta, welcome to this, I hope, interesting first session of today to talk about accessible tourism from the point of view of the law, as well as of micro-mobilities.
Estas cuestiones y voy a empezar muy directamente con una primera pregunta que
with the first question. In fact, it is the question that the organization of the summit are asking us. Are we doing enough to ensure that tourism is accessible to all of us?
Y una vez simplemente contestada con un pequeño
And after answering it shortly, I would ask you to introduce briefly your organizations, your insights about your organizations and this subject. Let's start by the same order. So, Isabel, are we doing enough? What does the social WTO, which you are the president, when it comes to talk about progresses, advances? I understand that we want to generate debate and conversation. We do the first distinction, first division between accessible tourism accessible tourism to all and accessible tourism per se. We distinguish social access to tourism to accessibility in tourism. We understand that accessibility in tourism is a part of the whole matter. This has been affected by the pandemic. There were recent publications saying that 28% of citizens cannot afford themselves to spend 1 week holidays out of the house. And more than 62 million jobs were lost. And if we talk from the inclusive point of view, inclusion point of view, we can see that some surveys say that 20% of population will have a disability in 2020 and 15% 10% of population has a kind of disability, according to the World Bank. So it is clear that there is much to do. We are the Organization of Tourism, which is solidary. We were born in 1963. We are more than 150 members. We are a committed platform, a platform that wants to generate debate and visibilize these three subjects which are cross-connected. We consider that it is a virtuous circle that makes the materialization of right to access to a city of quality, a tourism of quality, with an impact on the three aspects of the sustainability, social, economic, and environmental. And it is a transformative formula of tourism. There is a concrete structure that helps to push forward industry. How does it work? Mostly with the support of public policies. It is very important. Okay, we come back to this straight ahead. Let's continue with this first short answer to the question. Diego Javier González Velasco is the president of the Latin American Network of Accessible Tourism. He is a member of the European Network for Accessible Tourism. He spent decades working on accessibility. From this point of view, such as Isabel said, the inclusion, we were talking about micro-mobilities linked to the possibility that people, that tourists can have access to touristic sites. So that's the access to this social tourism. Diego. Are we doing enough? Also, very briefly, we will have time enough to further develop this matter.
Bueno, en primer lugar, creo, y centrándome en lo que es el turismo puramente accesible e inclusive, y respondiendo a esa cuestión, ¿se está haciendo lo suficiente? Creo que es una cuestión en la que no debemos globalizar. Tenemos
give a global answer. We have to take into account the destinations, the regions, countries, continents. In general terms, the answer is that we are working for an inclusive and accessible tourism. But we can say that we still have limitations, as we will say, regarding barriers of all kinds. The main barriers, such as the WTO, the barrier we are facing is the attitudes, also lack of skills of touristic sector and other issues that we will address for sure. I guess the main task that has to be, that is being put on the table is visibilizing the people, the disabled, not only from the point of view of the law, as many of the statements have acknowledged. We acknowledge the right of everyone to travel, even the disabled, of course, but also visibilize people
quiero decir, las personas con discapacidad son
being able to be
también un
clients.
segmento
They are
importante
an
de
important
mercado.
segment of
Y aquí,
market.
para
I
terminar,
am referring to the
lanzar una
disabled.
reflexión.
And also I want to put
Generalmente
a
el
reflection on the
mercado
table.
se basa en la oferta y la
Normally,
demanda.
the
Hay una
market is based on
incongruencia
market
total
and
y
demand.
absoluta en lo que se
There is
refiere al turismo
a lack of
accesible e inclusivo.
coincidence
Existe
between the
una
accessible
demanda,
tourism.
pero no existe una oferta.
There is
Ahí
demand,
dejo
but there
la
is
reflexión.
no offer.
Muchas gracias. Vamos a hablar de ello seguidamente. Antes presentar al
Tell you
tercero de
about,
nuestros
first of all, we
participantes hoy,
will
que
introduce
es
the third
Maximiliano
participant,
Malcebín,
Maximiliano
que es el
Malcebín.
secretario general
He's the
de
Secretary
FEDESUD.
General of
FEDESUD es la
FEDESUD,
organización de
which is
diferentes
the
federaciones
organization of
nacionales en América
national
Latina
federations
que
in
promueve el turismo, la
Latin
sostenibilidad, la
America,
inclusión,
promoting
etcétera. Desde ese punto de
inclusion,
vista,
tourism,
en este caso,
sustainability.
para tomar y seguir con las palabras ahora mismo
To continue
planteadas
with
por Diego desde el punto de
the
vista de la
words
oferta,
of
es decir,
Diego
los
from the point of
prestadores de
view of
servicios
the
turísticos
offer. So the suppliers, the
asociados
touristic
en
services
el ámbito
suppliers
latinoamericano.
associated in
Hacemos lo
Latin America.
suficiente.
Are we
¿Qué
doing
planteamiento
enough?
tiene así en general
What is
FEDESUD al respecto?
the approach
Bueno,
of
muchísimas
FEDESUD?
gracias,
Well,
primero que nada,
thank
y
you very
agradecido
much.
la posibilidad de estar en este espacio
I
y
am
compartir con
thankful
ustedes un poco el
to
nombre de
share
la
with
Federación
you
Sudamericana
on
de Turismo.
behalf of the
Yo creo que
Southern
claramente tenemos
American
mucho por hacer.
Federation
Yo
of
creo que lo
Tourism.
importante es que estamos
I
trabajando en
think
eso.
that we have plenty of things to
Me voy
do.
a señalar de una palabra clave que ha dicho
There is a
Diego,
key word,
que
as
es un
stated
referente de
by
esta
Diego,
temática y que la verdad
who
que
is
la
a
actitud
reference.
creo que es lo central.
The
Y creo que
attitude
la
is
primera
the
actitud que tenemos
main
que tomar es
point.
ya no tomar a la accesibilidad como algo especial,
Accessibility
como
is
algo
not something
aleatorio,
special,
como un valor agregado de un destino,
as
sino que
an
verdaderamente
added
deberíamos
value.
fijar a la accesibilidad como un estándar.
Accessibility
Es decir,
should
tendríamos
be
que
a
partir de la base que
standard.
no debería de ser algo especial.
It shouldn't be
Nosotros tenemos que
something
conseguir
special.
desde aquellos
We
y aquellos que
have
tenemos la posibilidad de
to
o
get that
desarrollar o
from
influir en el
those
desarrollo de
who
políticas
have the
públicas,
possibility of
generar que
influencing
las
the
mismas
public
tracen una
policies.
línea de base que
These
tenga que ver con el desarrollo de
politics
servicios
have
y
to
infraestructura accesible.
deal with
En este sentido, yo creo que
accessible
hay
infrastructure.
dos
So,
grandes desafíos que tienen que ver con dos
regarding
grandes
to
temáticas
that,
que
there
el
are
turismo
a
aborda
couple
a
of
nivel global, a nivel internacional.
challenges on a
que tienen que
global
ver
basis,
hoy, bueno, sin ninguna duda, la
which are
salud, que hoy nos
linked
cruza transversalmente.
to
Pero
health,
sin ninguna duda tenemos
of
que hablar
course,
de conectividad
but we have to
y
talk
dentro de
about
conectividad,
connectivity,
transporte,
and
y
within
el transporte como algo que debe considerar
transport.
a la comunidad de personas con discapacidad
We have
como uno
to
más y que debe estar preparada para
consider
ello.
the
El
disabled
transporte es
as
algo
one
central y
more
fundamental.
person,
Y por otro lado, la
just
infraestructura
like
tecnológica.
any other
Hoy tenemos
person, of course.
que aprovechar
And we
este
have
gran
to
empuje, estos
make the
varios
most
pasos
of
que hemos adelantado
these
y algo que podemos
steps
ver positivo en
ahead.
esta
I
pandemia que
think
tiene que
we
ver con el
can
desarrollo
see
tecnológico
positive
y
things, and
aprovechar las
it has to
aplicaciones,
do
las
with the
soluciones que hoy están
technological
haciendo que
development.
sea
We have
mucho
to
más
take
accesible
advantage of the solutions. So
el tránsito de un turista con alguna discapacidad. Hay varias empresas que inclusive están apoyando este evento que tienen que ver con eso, soluciones.
easier and more
Ya
comfortable.
Travel Pass, de Travitat, de Wanderlust, es decir, varias instituciones que
there
están
are
trabajando
several
en esto
institutions
y que, vuelvo a
that
insistir,
are
brindan
working on
la
this.
línea de base. Hoy no deberíamos
That's the
percibir el
baseline.
turismo
We
accesible
shouldn't
como
perceive
algo
the
especial.
accessible
Yo
tourism
creo,
as something
sinceramente, que
special. I
deberíamos empezar a
sincerely
incluirlo
think
dentro de
that
cualquiera de las
it should
políticas que
be
desarrollemos
embedded
en torno al
in
turismo o a la
any
demanda.
of the
Muchas gracias, Maximiliano.
future
Aprovecho también
touristic policies.
tus palabras para poder presentar
I
al
take your
cuarto de
words to
nuestros
introduce the
participantes en el
fourth,
panel
our
esta
fourth
mañana.
participant.
Al inicio de la intervención
At the
has hablado
beginning,
de la necesidad
he
de
talked about
plantearnos
the need
la accesibilidad como un
to
estándar para el
talk
turismo.
about
De
a
hecho,
standard
con
for
matices
tourism,
diferentes en relación
even
a esta
though with
precisa palabra.
different
Nuestro cuarto
nuances.
participante, José
Our
Luis Borao
fourth,
Jordán, que es el responsable de
participant, José Luis
accesibilidad,
Borao
medio
Jordán,
físico y entorno construido
responsible
de la
for
Fundación 11,
physical access
que no necesita
of
creo,
the
presentación en
Fundación
relación
11.
a su vinculación, a su compromiso y a su actividad
Is closely
en
linked
relación a la facilitación del
to the
acceso en
facilitation
general.
of access, in general
Él
access of
ha
people.
trabajado, y por esto
He
lo comentaba, ha
has,
trabajado
worked
directamente
directly
en relación a diferentes comités nacionales e internacionales
with
precisamente de,
several national and
precisamente de
international
estandarización.
committees
Esto,
about
por lo tanto,
standardization.
me abre la posibilidad de hablar directamente, de presentar directamente a José
So
Luis
I can
Borao,
introduce him
desde
directly,
esta
José Luis
perspectiva, y
Borao, from this
preguntarle,
perspective.
como a todos, en primer lugar,
May I ask
suficiente,
you,
en segundo
are we
lugar,
doing enough?
que haga
And
una
secondly,
breve presentación de,
can you briefly
bueno,
introduce
brevísima, porque si no podría
very
tomar
briefly
toda toda la sesión acerca de la visión de la Fundación 11 al
view
respecto.
of the Fundación 11
Esta cuestión relacionada con la estandarización.
vis-à-vis the standardization.
De hablarlo
We'll have the opportunity of get back to this.
Muchísimas
Thank you
gracias.
very
Sí,
much.
efectivamente,
Indeed.
hacemos lo suficiente. Bueno, yo creo que
Are
se
we
está
doing
trabajando,
enough?
¿no?
I
Se está
think that
trabajando.
we
Todavía queda mucho por
are
hacer, como
working on
comentaba
this.
anteriormente
There is
Maximiliano,
still much
en
to
materia
do,
de
as
accesibilidad y
Maximiliano
inclusión, en
said,
todos los ámbitos, no solo en el
about
ámbito del turismo, ¿no?
inclusivity.
Pero efectivamente, y retomando las palabras que comentaba Diego,
As
personas
Diego
con
said,
discapacidad
people
son
with
nichos, efectivamente, de clientes.
discapacities
Estamos hablando de que más de 1.000 millones
are a
de
niche of
personas
clients. More
en
than
todo el
1
mundo
billion people
tienen algún tipo de
all
discapacidad
over the
reconocida,
world
¿vale? Ahí ya
have
no metemos a
an
personas que no
acknowledged
tienen una discapacidad
disability.
reconocida, lo cual estamos hablando prácticamente de toda la población de China como potenciales
We would be
clientes
talking of the whole population of China in comparison as potential clients. Our population is aging, and by 2050, 25% of the worldwide population will be more than 65.
turísticos y de otros ámbitos, pero hablando
There will be
centrándonos en el
touristic
turismo, pues bueno,
services,
necesitarán
and
unas demandas, ¿no?
we will
por
need
la propia evolución
there
de
will
la
be
vida
some
de las
demands
personas, ¿no? También en ese
due to the
2050,
evolution, the
prácticamente
aging
el
of
80,
populations.
75-80% de la población vivirá en ciudades, vivirá en ciudades que también
75-80%
son
of
destinos
people will
turísticos,
live
con lo cual
in
tenemos que pensar
cities
en las
which
ciudades,
are
en los
also
destinos,
touristic
dentro de
destinations.
esta
So
nueva,
we have to think
nuevo
about
paradigma
them
demográfico en
within
el que
this
nos
new
encontramos en el
demographic
mundo, ¿no?
paradigm.
Y efectivamente,
And
teniendo en cuenta
indeed,
que
taking
en
into
el
account
momento en el que las
that
entidades,
when
los
the
organismos públicos,
entities,
las
public
entidades privadas,
organism, private
consideren a las personas como
entities
un nicho
will
de negocio,
consider
entonces será cuando
people
realmente
as
se empiece a mover
a
realmente
business
la maquinaria,
segment.
¿no? Para
So
incluir dentro de ese
things will change,
ámbito turístico
and
a las personas con discapacidad, a las
all
personas con algunas otras necesidades.
people
Pero no nos
will
olvidemos
be
que la accesibilidad es
included
una mejora para todas las
as
personas, no
potential
solo para las
tourists.
personas con
Diversity
discapacidad, también
is the
para las
best
personas
thing
mayores.
for
Seguramente muchos de nosotros
everyone.
utilizamos
They are
gafas.
the
Y
elder,
cuando
many
llegamos
of
a
us
un
are
entorno, pues
using
tenemos problemas a la hora
glasses,
de
and
leer
sometimes
carteles.
we
Eso es
have
accesibilidad.
troubles
O,
to
mejor dicho, eso
read
es buen
the
diseño, ¿no?
panels.
Al
This
final,
is
como también
accessibility
decía Maximiliano, y como
and
también
good design,
comentabas,
in fact.
la accesibilidad es un
As
estándar de calidad.
Massimiliano said,
Y el
accessibility
turismo
is
accesible
a standard
será
of quality, and
un
the
sinónimo de
accessible tourism will
turismo
be
de calidad. Y en esa
synonymous
línea que también me introducías de la normalización,
of
efectivamente hemos estado
quality
trabajando
tourism.
en
We've
la
been
norma recientemente
working in
publicada, una norma
norm,
ISO, la
the ISO
21902
norm
sobre turismo accesible para todas las personas, en el que se
902,
plantea un montón de requisitos y recomendaciones que luego, si
and
queréis, podemos hablar
with
con más
some
profundidad y
recommendations.
que hemos liderado con la Organización Mundial del Turismo,
We were at the
UNE y
forefront
la
of
Fundación 11.
this with
Y
UNE and
efectivamente
the
ese es uno de los
Fundación
papeles de
11.
Fundación 11, ¿no?
This is
Trabajar
one
por
of the main
trabajar
roles
por la
of the
normalización,
Fundación 11 to work
trabajar
for
por la
the
inclusión de diferentes
integration,
ámbitos y
inclusion of
la
people.
accesibilidad ya está metida dentro de esa Agenda
Accessibility
2030 a través de sus
is
ODS, como también
already
comentaba
embedded
Susana.
within
Y uno de esos
this
objetivos, el 17,
agenda, this 2030 agenda. The alliance is to
trabajar junto a entidades
achieve
como la OMT,
goals,
como
working with
ENAL, la
the
Red Europea de Turismo Accesible, con diferentes consejerías de turismo,
World
de las
Trade
comunidades autónomas,
Organization,
con ayuntamientos, con ministerios, con organismos de
International
normalización
Labour
como UNE, es esencial
Organization.
para conseguir esa plena
All
inclusión en
this
la sociedad
is
de las
essential
personas.
to achieve this inclusion of the
Creo que
disabled
han
within the
salido de
society.
entrada los grandes temas ya.
From the
Han salido,
very
la
beginning, the
necesidad
main
de la
subjects
articulación
are
de
on the
políticas,
table, the
han
need
salido,
of
la
politics,
cuestión
the
sobre
need of
la estandarización. Ha
standardization.
salido este elemento clave de
We've talked
considerar
about this
la
key
calidad en el
element to consider
turismo
quality
pues
in
insuficiente si
tourism
no se
as something
asegura, si
which
no se
is
garantiza precisamente
insufficient
esta accesibilidad.
if we
Ha
don't
salido
guarantee this
la necesidad de
accessibility.
plantearse
We talked
la
about the need
accesibilidad de las
to
personas con
address
discapacidad
accessibility
a
of
la
the
propia actividad
disabled
turística
to
como un
the
elemento
touristic
de mercado, no
activity as a
solamente,
market
como un elemento de
subject,
inclusión.
not
Y han
only as
salido
an
cuestiones
inclusion subject,
interesantes de visibilización
also
y de capacitación.
visibilization
Creo que
and
esto nos da para poder hablar mucho durante esta mañana. Para empezar, ya entrando en materia y después de esta presentación más general, quisiera preguntaros qué buenas prácticas podríais destacar. Es decir, sobre todas estas cuestiones, sobre alguna de ellas, si queréis, empezamos con la cuestión de las políticas. ¿Hay alguna buena práctica que queráis destacar, que queráis reconocer en
you
relación
want to
a
highlight
políticas que se han
vis-à-vis
establecido.
the
Se hablaba ahora mismo de trabajo en
politics.
términos de estandarización.
We were
Hay otras
talking
cuestiones.
of
¿Puedes
work,
quizá insistir, José Luis, para no necesariamente
jobs
seguir el mismo
and
orden
standards,
en las siguientes
José Luis,
intervenciones, acerca de cómo se ha ido materializando
how did
esta
we
cuestión de la
materialize
normalización
this
de
matter of
las cuestiones
normalization
relacionadas
of
con la accesibilidad
questions
en
linked
términos de estandarización? José Luis.
to this about the standardization?
Como decía, la
Well,
estandarización,
as I said,
al final,
standardization,
la
at the end of the day, as we all know, is a matter, is a volunteer subject. The entities are adopting these standards, these norms, these ISO, UNE, depending on the country. Afterwards, there is the mandatory norms or regulations. These standards, these ISO international standards are voluntary, but it is a matter of quality. So, when we set this ISO norm 21902, we understood that this standard could be demanded at an international level by small, middle-sized or large touristic companies. We needed a standard, we needed requisites and guidelines, so a beach can be considered as accessible. It has to have, of course, showers, utilities, well, etc. That means there are many layers that need these quality standards. So we can think about this accessibility chain. The beaches have to be accessible, they have to be restoration services, housing, toilets, or they have to provide some products, they must have a restaurant or whatever. Some panels are talking about gastronomy. In touristic destinations, we have to put our focus on these products. I mean, these standards, these examples of normalization are an example to provide the tools to the different actors when it comes to articulate this accessibility chain of touristic destinations. Thank you, Diego. A good example of best practices. Well, first of all, I would like to add a nuance to this new ISO norm. There's no doubt that, well, first of all, at last, an international norm. Up to now, one of the most complicated issues of the sector has been the homogenization of the touristic activity. It is a global activity. I mean by that accessibility has to be anywhere, regardless from the continent or the country. Up to now, we didn't have a homogeneous norm within the touristic sector. This norm is set from the value of experience of the tourist. Many norms, many regulations have been set to control, to normalize several aspects of the touristic sectors. But what this norm states is that the value chain of the touristic experience, I mean, since the person with a disability is looking for information, makes the trip, enjoys the factors of the destinations until this person comes back. So we have to think that the inclusive and accessible tourism has to cover the chain of value of the touristic experience. This is the only way that will make tourism be inclusive. Any part of the chain that might be broken or that doesn't exist could imply a false accessible touristic destination. Following with this same talk, let's move to Isabel. I think she can tell us about the value chain. That's what we are talking about as a president of the International Organization of Social Tourism. She has this large heterogeneous dimension about the development process of touristic activity. Maybe she can give us an example of best practice to ensure the social right for the development of these accessibility dynamics within the value chain.
I can answer with two main ideas. First of all, we should be coherent towards public administration institutions. As we mentioned before, public policies are capital when we implement these kind of measures. On the other hand, we have several working teams, one of them working with accessibility with more than 10 countries, and we developed several practices, such as the one that we are publishing now. We published a guideline for dealing with disabled people. The majority of guidelines deal with mobility issues, but they usually never try to solve hearing and vision problems. So, ASEDIF is implementing very interesting things. It is quite a simple guide, the guide that we offer, for us to better know how to embrace these people. It is already translated in 6 languages. We have an audio format of the guide, and we are working for making the guide more accessible and to make digital tools more accessible for disabled people. What can you say about Latin America? Maximiliano, tell us, what are the best practices in Latin America? The South American Tourism Federation, FEDESUD, is trying to gather synergies when developing tourism in the region, and accessibility, once again, is something that we should talk about. To include several institutions such as the Chamber of Tourism in Argentina. We also have a library for accessible tourism, and we could talk about other countries such as Ecuador that is working to implement some guidelines that have to do with accessible tourism. Beyond that, we should include accessibility concept in all the public policies. And let me just mention a very precise example. We say that education and training is capital. We should improve accessibility in our universities, not only when we study tourism in the university, and not only in the Faculty of Medicine, but also in the architecture faculty. We should comply with the standards. As José Luis mentioned, we need to standardize and to normalize accessibility. Let me just offer you a personal anecdote that was also mentioned by Diego. Several years ago, I was invited to a conference in Washington, D.C., which is quite a popular city when dealing with accessibility issues. I was there at a friend's home. He's got a daughter with disabilities. I had the chance to be there for Halloween. We're getting closer to Halloween. And well, I had the opportunity to go to the suburbs of the city. I went to a community with Santiago and Daniela, his daughter, in a wheelchair. We were able to take advantage. We crossed all the streets. There was no problem at all. And, you know, nobody had to push a wheelchair. That's the solution. It was very easy. So, this is the solution, and any of the people that will be visiting there, so that's what we should do. We need to include that. And when we talk about accessible tourism, we need to go beyond tourism activities. They should be also included in the education sector and also cross-linked for better infrastructure development. Infrastructures, mobility, both things correlated. Isabel talked about a very important topic, such as digitalization. We are experiencing a global change dynamic. Tourism, it's maybe one of the boosters and also embraces many digitalization processes. How we could understand that tourism will give support to this digital transformation. That means also business transformation today. How can we give support to this new demand that it's clear in this panel? Because we are considering that tourism must be accessible. It should be a tourism for everyone. We are all impacted by that. What's the relation that we can create with digitalization? Maybe Isabel, yes. Thank you. When we deal with digitalization, we deal it as a tool. Digitalization, it is a key tool for us. Thanks to digital tools, we were able to be together with these 15 organizations in 10 different countries. We were able to gather the best practices. Otherwise, it could be very difficult. And in the end, we published that guide that I was talking about before. And the important thing to us is implementation. Not only having digitalization procedures, but also we need to know how many companies, corporations, small enterprises take their time to implement the changes that are needed, right? That's the thing, I guess. Maximiliano, well, let's talk about the corporations. You, as a president of a different enterprises association, well, it's easy to say because we can see many challenges ahead. Those challenges already existed. The thing that changed maybe is the speed we need to face the problems. Mainly in Latin America, because it is the reality that I know better. In some countries, we were lacking sometimes many tools lacked, such as websites. But today things have improved. We can talk through our cell phones and we can improve the tourist sector. Today, and I offer several examples of international organizations such as the IATA, such as NAMPAS in the US and One Global Life here in Spain, through the Travitat tool, well, we see that some companies are looking for tools creation for us to have a digital security, to have access to specific services that make life easier and improve people's mobility. People, disabled people. So some of those individuals that suffer motor disability. But what happens with deaf people, blind people? We already have several tools that will allow us and will allow people to have a pleasant journey, because we are thinking about tourists. So what can we do to improve people's lives? Not just bookings, but also the payment methods, and also to include everything that is needed in a cell phone for people to be more comfortable and to have a pleasant journey. I think that today, loads of startups, we are surrounded here by leader institutions. I only represent an integration space organization, but I guess that the OEA, it's also a great example. Advanced Leadership Foundation is also an institution together with the WTO, both organizers of this event. They are developing leadership programs, fostering the development of new leaders and entrepreneurs. So we are awake, and we are aware also, on the other hand, that we need to develop this kind of tools. José Luis, from the ONCE Foundation perspective, so what are you doing? And tell us, when we deal with your business line, when you deal with hotels, how are you working for digitalization and accessibility? How are you working with that? Well, digitalization, as Susana mentioned at the beginning, it is a tool. It is a tool that will improve the access and also to take advantage of the tools when we are in a tourist destination. We should be open when implementing and developing these digital tools. We don't have to make the same mistake, the one that we made when we built buildings. We don't want to have barriers anymore. We don't want to have digital barriers today. Now that we can see the appearance of virtual reality and AI, please, let's take into account all the features that disabled people need. This is essential to us. That's why we work together with other startups in our foundation, working hand in hand with the several entities that want to implement this digital transformation through new businesses and creating new startups, always taking into account that some disabled people suffer many physical and digital barriers. We are talking about deaf people, about blind people, but you know, loads of deaf people and blind people, they want to have fun in a tourist destination. Let's make things easier for them. That's why the digital area has a lot to help through the existing tools. From the ONCE Foundation, this is one of the main lines we are developing together with all the hotels, including everything that has to do with digital transformation, taking always into account customer needs in a hotel. So we always offer that example because we want other hotels to copy that, and we'll be here from ONCE Foundation to accompany all the hotels and stakeholders in the tourist sectors to make things easier for disabled people. Diego, what you would like to claim? I'm maybe claiming it's not a word. It's kind of an overused word, but you talked about digital barriers, right? So we also see architectural barriers. What can you see? What are the main obstacles that we need to overcome when dealing with digital obstacles? You know that the Latin American network, as well as the national tourism networks that are accessible in each and every country, show that Latin America, it is a great example that include disabled tourists. These organizations are created by entrepreneurs working in the tourist sector together with disabled organizations, and in a certain manner, well, the approach that we are having and that we are seeing today, it is an approach that always tries to create awareness, to create new perspective. That's the way forward. However, This way has to include everything that exists. So, we are talking about the things that will be possible in the future, but things that will be possible in the future is today. The majority of travelers with or without disabilities, they made their bookings through the online booking platforms. This is just an example. I'm talking today's reality of tourism. I think that there is a lack of something. Tourist sector should be more involved in this kind of conversations in order to exchange some ideas, because the majority of booking systems, let me tell you that when we had the possibility to smoke in a hotel, you could book a smoking room. Today, very few reservation systems, 90% of travelers that book their holidays online, they do not have the option to book an accessible room. And if it were the case, they will incur in many risks, because in the end the room won't be a disabled room. This is a real problem that we all need to face. Many other problems, they have to do with the tourist sector. Tourist sector, well, it's not evil. Tourist sector doesn't know anything about what's accessibility, about how to treat well a disabled people. And when you reach in a hotel, despite making all the technological investments that are needed, the staff at the hotel, they do not anything. They do not know what's the purpose. Just for offering you an example, what is an induction shield? Offering safety for low hearing people. This device is at the reception desk, but no one knows what's the purpose for that. So the moment has arrived. We need to improve accessibility and to make things easier for disabled people. Tourism needs to work together with disabled specialists. We need to exchange the information, because we need to cover all disabled people's needs. And these needs, they should be covered in an appropriate manner. I think that this is what is lacking today in the tourist sector all over the world. Well, this last comment made me question many things that are related with knowledge and training. Not only training of designers or managers, but training for those individuals that intervene in a straightforward manner in a tourist sector. When we talk about policies, we talk about digital transformation, we talk about the need to set up new mechanisms. What are the needs from a foundation perspective? Diego and Maximiliano, in today's panel, they are members and they are teachers, or maybe they were teachers in different training programs, such as the University CETT and Blas Pascal in Maximiliano's case, and at the CETT, thanks to the teachings of Diego, we also have the experience of Isabel and José Luis. What do we need, and what would be the ideal level of training in order to intervene? Let's start with Diego. Let me be very brief. It has been mentioned by Maximiliano before. Accessibility has to be incorporated into regulated teachings and educational system. When you want to get some training for inclusive training and tourism, We talk about the training that is needed to offer some services to 1 billion of potential tourists. And there is not a single matter in the official universities programs and curriculum that deals with that. This is what Maximiliano said. If you go to next building in your university, you go to the Faculty of Architecture, and you will see that there are loads of barriers there. They are the ones that create these spaces. So we should think in different terms. At the end of the day, the professional is offering a service, and we should think that their potential customers, they could be also disabled people or with special needs. Maximiliano. Well, thank you very much, Diego, for what you said before, and I'm totally convinced. It is very difficult when you are in a classroom to create new spaces. I had a chance to share some learnings and experiences. It is difficult to tell to a student that they need to think and to bear in mind accessibility. Sometimes they had a colleague in a wheelchair and there were no ramps for the colleague to get in the classroom. So let's think about the infrastructure in a proper manner. This is what Diego mentioned before. It is important to train properly future professionals, the ones that will take the decisions when developing future infrastructures. We create a tourism product at the faculty level, and it also has to do with the ability of those that already are in the tourism industry. I was offering some examples in South America working on that. People's training, people that come through the service, and they should understand that we need an equal treatment. We are all equal. So there are no differences amongst us. That's why we need to work better and more. Training the staff already working in the sector and the future staff members and workers. Without escaping this topic, let me tell you that it's useless if Spain is a lighthouse. Maybe Spain is able to create some policies, but maybe you can take a plane, you get to my country, and maybe there will not be a ramp for you to get out the plane. So we had loads of failures during the pandemics, whether political or health issues. If we are not able to articulate, it's going to be very difficult to create a clear policy. Accessibility policy, go beyond that. Go beyond the borders, articulating spaces, integrating spaces such as the one that I do represent. Isabel talked about the amount of representations as well as of ONCE Foundation, where they created a very stable network. So I think that we all together will be able to better instill that. So it's useless if you have a ramp to get into a plane. It's useless if the final destination doesn't have a ramp for you to get out of the plane. Thank you, Maximiliano. Great examples. What do you do at ONCE Foundation when dealing with the training? Yes, for the ONCE Foundation, it has been vital and very important to have an impact on the official curriculum and education. That's the place to create an impact for future professionals to incorporate that as something that's important. I'm an architect and I never got training as an architect to deal with disabled people. So I passed my final project because I put a ramp in my building, so that's essential. So we should include in all the curriculum different issues and questions such as accessibility. That isn't for everybody, not only in specific subjects, but also we should include this part. part. And when we talk about tourism, tourism is offering almost everything. We include in tourism services, custom care, transportation, health systems, culture. So all those people and professionals designing these products and environments, they should have incorporated in a design stage the design for everybody. It is the only way to reach a final standardization, accepting the official education for the professionals to find a better job. We've been working with the University Association of Chairs of the universities in Spain, many other institutions. We are developing loads of guides and manuals and creating guides to introduce inside the training curriculum. It's a very slow process, but it was also mentioned by Susana. It's not only a tool. We have the tool, but we should implement. It's going to be very, very slow. We will see little by little the results, and we hope that in the near future it's going to be in all the universities. And why not? Maybe we should go to other lower education. Why? When our kids in school, the only relationship that they get with a disability is if they know a kid or a colleague in school that suffers disability. Maybe we should talk about that during the class sessions. To conclude this part, Isabel from the social WTO department, how do you manage these issues with all the members of your organization? Well, we at the WTO, we work with a twofold strategy. We have in the Americas a diploma that deals with the issue, but also for those professionals that are working right now. Some of my colleagues in this panel told it before. One of the main positive points is that we have a very low barrier of entry. We are very inclusive. There is always changes at the professional level. We can see that the professionals, they get recycled and people stay for good. This also has a good relationship with the seasonality and also the economic crisis that suffer many people went to work to other industries. So we know that today there are very remotely hotels that they don't find professionals to work there. When they find a professional, I have to train him or her in relationship with disabilities, and after 2 months is going to be a receptionist, or maybe after 2 months they go to work to another, they get another job, right? So this is something that can be made and compared in all the value chains. So if there is no stability in the tourism sector, it's going to be very difficult to create stability for jobs. And the new skills that we'll be creating, they won't stay for good. Therefore, going back to my previous idea, we should strengthen public policies. We should be more sensitive towards governments for them to implement these these public policies to close this gap and to create tourism programs for everybody that will be inclusive, that will allow to transform the industry, and this transformation won't go to other sectors due to a lack of work and job creation. So we are working in all these senses. Thank you so much, Isabel. We are almost over with this panel. I think that there were very interesting concepts and visions, not only practices, but also concepts in relationship with the first question that I made at the beginning. Now, in order to conclude, just 4 minutes, so please give me your final ideas or your conclusions, rethinking about what could we do, where are we aiming to, how can we make an impact. So a final sentence and a burning sentence that you want to share with us. What's your idea that you have as experts and representatives of your organizations? Well, let's start with you, Diego. Well, quickly, I'd say that, to me, inclusive tourism, accessible tourism, it's something very important, and I'd like to offer a hint for the tourism sector: profitability, competitiveness, equality, social responsibility, and breaking the seasonality periods. I think that this is inclusive tourism to me. So we have the right to be tourists, but also we have the right to be customer. Diego, thank you so much. Maximiliano? Well, with all the concepts on the table, it's very easy to find a new one. I do have something that is cross-related with today's topic. That has to do with tourism safety. When we talk about security, well, it's kind of a tricky thing, mainly when we go to destinations that suffer earthquakes or some terrorist attacks or crime. So security is a concept that should be included when we develop new ideas for tourism. When we have a safe infrastructure with all the amenities and strategies for a disabled individual, it's going to be safer for a regular tourist that will go to that hotel or a resort. Something different has to do with the tourism for health and the importance of this sector. Today, it is fundamental when we need to deal with disabled people and offer different treatments for them. So I'd like to add this idea together with the concepts of Diego. So let's think about the concept of security that really offers us the possibility to reach this level of accessibility in all destinations. Yes, if you allow me, after Maximiliano and Diego's comments, we should encourage the quality of our destinations, and we should improve accessibility. We should listen users and all the existing possibilities. That's a unique way to create quality products. We are reinventing ourselves, and we are inventing also tourism. Tourism that has suffered a lot due to COVID-19 pandemics. The moment has arrived to create new things, to create new products. We should take into account all people's needs to create big quality destinations useful for everybody. Let me take advantage of this conference. In November, we'll have an international conference. We talk about everything, and you are all invited because we want to have a much more sustainable and a more inclusive world. Isabel, you have the final word. Well, thank you so much. Well, the tourism sector is very divided. It's very difficult to have a single voice. So I'm calling you to create a dialogue, to put together all our strengths and positive strategies, to create a standardized and a high-quality source of information to improve public policies that will promote public and private partnerships, because they work with the public and private sector. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of you. We close this first Wednesday panel of this Tourism World Summit. I think that the many ideas, enough ideas to have a new perspective towards the future, to work in line with listening, being attentive, giving more visibility of this situation, and something that it is vital, it's important and convenient when dealing with competitiveness, business creation, security. We need to better articulate and to better standardize all the processes. Well, thank you so much. And now I'll give the floor to Marta Segurañas. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Anton. When I introduced this panel a few minutes ago, I wanted to know if we were making enough for tourism to be more open and embracing disabilities. For sure, we need to improve, and inclusion should include all life aspects, and tourism cannot be at the margin. Thank you very much to all the guests, those here in our TV set and there in your home. Thank you very much for sharing our experiences, for those in the studio and those at home. There is a long way to go for making tourism accessible for everyone. We close now, and see you at 11:30 for new questions related with the tourism. We're going to talk about country branding, the brand of a country and the reputation of a country in a tourist market. See you later.
Buenos días. De nuevo seguimos en el marco de esta
Good
cumbre sobre el
morning.
futuro del turismo,
We continue
abordando los
with
desafíos
this
que
summit,
tiene el
facing
sector
the
con
challenges
una nueva
of the
mesa de debate.
sector
La
with a new
globalización ha difuminado
roundtable.
las fronteras y sin fronteras.
Globalization has
Es imprescindible tener una
disseminated
identidad que defina un país
borders.
para
It
diferenciarse
is
del resto.
hard
Tener
to
una reputación
define a
a
country
nivel
from the
internacional es
others, to
clave
have a
tanto para países
reputation on
grandes
an
como
international
pequeños.
basis
Y
is
construir una marca de
paramount
país
for
sólida y con
small
proyección
and
es una labor
large
complicada en
countries.
la que participan distintos actores y
It is a
requiere de un
task
trabajo de
with many
planificación
players. It
y
requires
coordinación.
planning
¿Qué
and
papel
coordination
juega la
work.
marca de
What is
país
the
en el
role
éxito de
of
la
the
promoción de productos
country
turísticos?
brand
¿Cuáles son las
with
claves
the
para
promotion
crear
of
una marca de
touristic
país? Son
products? Which are the
preguntas y
keys
cuestiones que
to
intentaremos
create
responder en la
this
siguiente
country
mesa
label?
de debate,
We will
Unlocking the
try
Impact
to
of Country Branding
answer
and
to
Strategic
this
Communication
within
on
this country
Destination.
branding
Quiero dar la
communication
bienvenida
strategic
a
on
esta
destination.
mesa
I want
redonda
to welcome
a
this
Isabel
round
Roches,
table
la
to this round table,
directora
Isabel
de
Echo,
Barcelona
director
Centre
of
de
Barcelona
Design.
Centre de
Saludamos
Design.
también a Lluís
We
Bassat,
also greet
el
Lluís
fundador de
Bassat.
la
He's
agencia Bassat
founder of
Ogilvy,
Bassat
y
Ogilvy.
bienvenido también a Roberto Schaps, es el
Also
presidente
Roberto
de
Schaps,
Relebrand,
who is the
agencia de
president of
publicidad
Relebrand
y marketing en Florida. Y
Marketing
saludos
and
también al
Advertisement
moderador de esta
Agency
mesa,
in Florida.
Uriol Nolis.
Also,
Bienvenido,
Uriol Nolis,
Adelante,
welcome
es el
Uriol.
director de esta
He is
casa
the
de Radio Televisión Española en
CEO of
Cataluña.
Radio Televisión
Uriol.
Española in Catalonia. You have the floor, Uriol.
Bueno, buenos días. Como decía Marta.
Thank you very much. As Marta said, our roundtable is focused on this impact of branding, strategic communication in destinations, promotion of touristic products, as you well know, demands a context that allows the public, the audience, to appreciate what the country has to offer. Positioning a nation, territory, a country as a global brand is an important need for big and small countries. Building a brand from one country requires time, demands investment, planning, and much work. We're going to talk about this in the next hour with Isabel Roche, Lluís Bassat, and Roberto Schaps. With no further delay, to open this round table, to which extent is it important? The importance of a country, the image of a country, a territory is important to be consolidated as a an important touristic destination. The image is basic and paramount. It has to be based on real values, which are your main assets and that you put at the disposal of this campaign of communication. So it is important to choose a good image. Good brands are born from good products. I don't know of any good brand from a wrong or bad product. So touristic products of a region, a territory will depend on its quality, the quality of this so-called place or site. It might be a spectacular, amazing sun, monuments, sites, it might be history, but all together is impossible. We cannot explain everything from one single place because communication will last 1 minute and we will just give some screenshots. Barcelona is known and well known and acknowledged by Sagrada Familia from Antoni Gaudí. Creating this brand, our work, our common destination work is creating the wish to visit this place. It has to be a reference, so these people want to travel. Because at the end of the day, if I don't wish to travel somewhere, I will not travel. So it is important to create this brand. As Lluís said, it must be a reference, it must be clear to be differentiated from other destinations, because there are plenty of beaches and restaurants all over the world. So what makes us different from others. I would like to be a first element of debate. It is hard to be a touristic, a first-level destination with a wrong image, a bad image. Yes, as Luis said, with a bad product, it is difficult to build a good campaign. It might have some negative destinations, but with other elements, it might be another touristic destination. But mainly, it is hard to do it. They are very bad touristic campaigns. Some of them are wrong. I was at the jury at the Worldwide Association of Advertisement, and we wanted to choose the country, and we had Egypt and South Korea. Egypt was explaining what Egypt was, with luxuries restaurants, people doing parapente, people doing surf or around behind the ship, and we couldn't see the pyramids. What were they selling? Well, you have good restaurants, good beaches, and a good climate, but a good weather. But they should have based their communication on their differences. South Korea won the award, and the next Congress was held in Seoul. The important part of this is that they are well-defined destinations, but through time, these destinations are on the long run. There are some negative or situations we are negatives. But if the brand is strong and clear, then we know how to sail and how and when to go anywhere. We have to understand where we are going to go and what we can expect from this destination. As Luis said, if they do not show us the pyramids in Egypt, we have no references at all then. The tourism is done for several reasons. Some want to have a swim bath on the beach, and they are just interested by this. Some others are attracted by a city for a professional reason, a congress or whatever, and you want to know more about this place. Some others are cultural reasons, so each city has something to offer. Bilbao is a city which had no tourism. They talk about gastronomy, about very good wines, but people were not going to Bilbao. And someone had the idea to build the Guggenheim Museum, and suddenly everyone knows about it. There are many alternatives. You can go to Andalusia, spend one day in Bilbao, or you can go to Costa Brava or Valencia or Madrid or whatever. There is something in Bilbao which has sufficient attractiveness. So we have to focus on the tourism we are calling, the kind of tourism we are calling business tourism or sand and beach or cultural or whatever. Luis Basset was talking of differentiating ourselves, putting the example of Egypt with the pyramids. Is it the most important thing when we want to build a brand of city, of country? If you launch a campaign, as Luis said, Barcelona has the opportunity of strengthening this cultural and creative tourism, which is emerging. We focus on this cultural offer that we have in the city. In Barcelona, we have an amazing offer. Of course, there is a fantastic and amazing gastronomy, architecture, museums, and many creative festivals. And there you can make a proposal of added value. Moreover, people will be able to visit landscapes, technology, beaches, or whatever. And if people attend a congress, it is important to put on the table to offer this creative cultural offer. We have much to offer there, and we have to widen the territory with an added value proposal. We focus on something, and here we have a good opportunity in Barcelona. Barcelona would never have been a first-class world touristic site without the Olympic Games in 1992. When the mayor asked me to do it, I told him I will make the advertising. He told me we can't afford that, we have no money, but I would like that the inauguration, the opening session would be as the advertising of Barcelona, of Catalonia and Spain. And I was named the president of the Olympic ceremonies, but it was not a show. I remember I told the jury until up to now you could see 6 shows. Mine is just an advertising spot of 3 hours. We are going to show everything that will contribute to sell our image, to sell our city. Opera, there was no other country in the world with 6, 7 or 8 tenors or sopranos worldwide, or baritons. That's why we did opera, because we showed the design of La Fura del Baus. We wanted to highlight this amazing cultural thing. This has to do with the image of Barcelona. Cristina Hoyos riding a horse and dancing just with her arms. We wanted to talk about flamenco. It was paramount to talk about flamenco, but not only in the bars with the tabernas. No, the highest, the top level flamenco, the director of ballet, National Ballet, riding a horse. Antonio Samaranch said that we held the best Olympic Games in history. Barcelona was opening to a worldwide tourism who has wanted to come to see us. Barcelona was hosting people who didn't know what they were going to see and visit, and after the games it changed radically.
No, ya que había salido el tema de Barcelona,
After Barcelona,
que nos paráramos un segundo en Barcelona, porque hablabais de éxito, de marca de éxito.
You were talking about the success, the brand success. A brand like Barcelona's or any other brand, can it die from success? I mean, because of too much success, do we run the risk of dying as a brand? Yes, of course. If people get in the city, in the city council, and some people say we do not want more tourism, it might kill the city. I wouldn't go to a city where the beams were burned, or there are too many protest exhibitions or riots. Well, people go for tourism to safe places where there are no risk of violent riots. People do not want this. I went to some cities in Southern America or in Central America, so I had to run away sometimes because there were exhibitions, there were riots, rallies, and some of them might be violent rallies. So by mistake we can die, of course, because what happens in one city is disseminated wherever, all around the world. Television doesn't give us just bad news, but dramas, tragedies, and burning containers, bin containers, is a drama for a city. We are looking for a differentiated experience, something that enriches us, that makes us grow culturally or scientifically or whatever. When you hesitate between two destinations, the image of what is transmitted to you will condition your decision. But what we do have to do, well, a brand, you can't launch it and that's it. You have to maintain it continuously. We have to support this brand. We have to strengthen it, to enhance it, so it doesn't fade out. We have to reposition the city continuously. We offer experiences, so people choose this destination. This destination has to be aspirational. You have to want to go there for any things. People said before, well, before that the city was positioned, people come for some reasons. That's what we have to enhance. At the end of the day, which is the right experience? We have to avoid conflicts or problems that can damage this experience. The main challenges, it might be Barcelona, but New York, etc. Thanks to these small devices, we are in a transparent world. As you said, I can see bins or containers. Well, the success is important, but we have to show what we are, because unfortunately with social networks people know the truth very rapidly. Not only we have to pay attention, we have to take care of the cities for tourists, but also for citizens, for local citizens. That's the inner tourism. We talk about the tourism that we do as foreigners, but we can also see museums or buildings or monuments or whatever. So, tourism has, people have to be happy to belong to this city. Roberto, you were talking about this connectivity. We have our mobiles, we can send immediately images, the brand image, and its building, it takes a long time. What happens in a city? Is it hard to build a brand, to build an image? I mean, what about the fragility of a brand? Because with this connectivity that didn't exist before, I mean, has all this changed? Are the brands more fragile? Yes, I do think so. The main challenge of destination brands is the fact that what can happen, what can go wrong. Before, in the past, when there was a problem at the hotel, we called the reception center, we had a complaint. Now it's different. We take a picture, we upload it on Facebook, and everyone in the world knows what's happening, what's going on in this hotel. You can go to a restaurant, a museum, a restaurant, library or whatever. So there is this fragility, yes. It takes a long time and they can be destroyed in seconds. You might do an important mistake and you can die. We have to be intelligent enough. Many years ago, there was a company of French mineral water. They had a problem, and some people got injured. The president of the company withdrew all this mineral water, millions and millions of bottles. I couldn't run the risk of having one person ill or sick because of drinking that water. People were confident about this brand because when there was a problem, the president knew how to manage it. So when there is a mistake, it might happen in a destination, it might have an error. Before the death of the destination, we have to face it, we have to acknowledge the error, and we have to bring a solution. Connectivity is for good and bad things. Barcelona is the third city in Europe in Instagram and the 10th city in the world. So there are some images of architecture and gastronomy, but there might be some negative pictures. So for good and bad, connectivity is immediate, and a good experience is in the network, and a bad experience the same. So we have to pay a close attention to this. I do agree with my colleagues, tourism is internal and the citizens and the close visitors. So connectivity, we have to foster good things. London was the frog city, and people didn't want to go to London. There was pollution. It was not fog, it was pollution, and the low clouds were not moving, and you could hardly walk through the city. They knew how to withdraw, how to eliminate this pollution, and now it is not only a well-known city, but one of the most marvelous cities in the world. I'm talking of London. So they knew how to turn the city into a very good and attractive product. We talk about the image projected by the cities in social networks, in the news. You were mentioning the rallies. Which are the roles of political sustainability or balance in the brand of a territory or a country? I think that we were talking about this. Sustainability is taking more and more strength. Each time the society is more aware of all this. If you bet on sustainability and you like it, well, if there is no bet on sustainability, you might dislike it. So these trends will affect more and more the destinations. Business destinations, you are obliged to go there, might be, but if your first entry perception is negative, okay, but if it's on your own decision, I mean, these concepts of women mistreatment or whatever this might be affecting negatively the image of the brand or of that city. With a bad product, it is difficult to sell it. I went to China in 1982. At that time, you couldn't travel to China, but there was a medical congress, and my travel agency organized this medical congress, and my wife and I could visit China by curiosity, and it was a very interesting travel. The guide who was talking perfect Spanish, he made reports about what we were saying every evening, every late evening, one of the days that we had a couple of wine glasses. He told us that he was a secret policeman, so dictatorship at that time had to know what we were saying about this country. From a political point of view, our opinions were very controversial. Now, we don't envisage to travel to a country where women are harassed or mistreated. So there are some refrains. How can I go to a country where I will be obliged to wear a mask or a handkerchief, a burqa on my face? Well, this configures the shapes touristic attractiveness. So that one of the countries have a good brand, it must be a good country.
You talked about something very interesting, which is the word sustainability. It is a word that it can be taken in a positive note. The Z generation and the millennial generation, for them, it's so important, sustainability. Therefore, as a destination, you should show that, and they will be able to assess, and they will take the decision to visit your destination or another destination if you are sustainable, because this is in harmony with my values. It is such important to attract new generations to do it so. As we previously mentioned, the Olympic Games opened the eyes of the world towards Barcelona, and those that were born in 2010 were not during the Olympic Games times. So now they get different values and they want to get connected with other destinations. Therefore, all the experiences can be very positive in those cities or territories. And I'm sure that they will always come back. People, they will go there one time, another time. They will like the place that they visit. They will put the pictures on the Instagram, and they will visit more regularly your destination. So it is difficult to create a brand of a territory of a country without the awareness, social awareness, environmental awareness. It is kind of impossible to do. It will be a fake image. It would be a lie. A country that has lots of waste in the sand, in the beaches, plastic and tins, despite they will do great advertisement campaigns. Once you visit a beach full of plastic and many waste, well, so at the end of the day, you will never come back. Advertisement campaigns are not useful for you to go only once. You want people to be faithful to your destination. If you launch an advertisement campaign, that's not profitable for tourists only to come once. You want tourists to come back again and again. So the profitability of the advertisement campaigns and the purpose, it is to offer you the opportunity to go back again. If you only launch an advertisement campaign and people never come back, it's a very bad advertisement. You know what happens, and we told it at the beginning, and we are telling now once again, Sometimes we want to sell everything, but if you are targeting your audience and you sell the idea of sustainable destination, there are also creative destinations or design destinations and many others. And in this specific case, Miami has the Art Basel as well as Design Miami fairs, art fairs. So loads of people go to visit Miami only on those occasions. We also have a concert in Barcelona, such as the Sonar Festival. So you can make a specific campaign for a specific target and to offer an experience. This is something that people should see and believe in that. If you have this competitive advantage and the asset, you can offer that. Barcelona, together with other 40 different cities in the planet, we have the World Design Week, which is a city association that organizes weekly events for design. Today we have 150 design events. We have the Design Week and we're working on that. We want to create a global design destinations where people will feel attracted to visit that destination. We have creators and also events. You could go to Miami, Berlin, Barcelona. You could go to LA and many other places, or Beijing. Beijing also has this activity as a destination. So sometimes the offer that we are giving to our target audience, whether it's a creative, a beach tourism, it has to be credible. There are cities that have some specific features. In Singapore, there is not a cigarette butt on the floor, not a paper on the floor, because they fine you if you throw a cigarette butt. You pay lots of money. And also tourists. Tourists, they know when they leave the airport that if they throw the cigarette butt on the floor or a paper on the floor, they will be fined. What did they have to pay? Around $1,000? Yeah. An incredible sum. So a very clean city. It's not difficult. We should educate people. And people, they do not visit. Or maybe people, they drive safely when they get a fine. And when you get points for your driving license. It happened to me. I drove faster than expected in a highway, so they took me 2 points of my driving license. So if there is something that we cannot tolerate in a city, that it's damaging a city and the citizens, we should tell people that that's not correct and to pay the price for that. Well, in order to conclude this topic, you talked about the brand creation, the creation of a new brand for a territory and a country. Maybe things have changed, but loads of people, they still pick the destination relying on what they see. They see an image of an incredible beach in the Caribbean Sea. Maybe they will visit a country that do not comply with all these items, but they still think about the destination because they only think about having fun without daiquiri and going to the beach. That will be enough for them to pick a destination. So tell me, how do you see, to what extent are we changing the image and the perspective of many people towards specific countries to pick the destination of their holidays? I think that many things have changed. But don't you think that people, they will pick only the final destination just for the sake of beauty? Well, we say it before. Many people, they want to go to that specific beach. New generations are more aware than the previous ones. They are worried about sustainability and many other issues. In new generations, they are more educated. We go to the destination without knowing the reality of the area, the region, and about the rules of democracy and sustainability protocols like that, because we were not trained on that. But I guess the new generations, they are prone to know and they are interested in that, and they want to have say. So they have something to say, and they do not visit that destination or the other. So generations are changing, and we can witness that new generations are more aware about what they will see and the reality of the places and destinations that they will visit. And new generations, they want to help the planet. So they will accept to go or not to go to the final destination relying on the values that they have. Something that really changed lately has been the ability that we have to absorb and to get the information. I think that before we didn't wonder what kind of policy and politics and regime existed in a country. We didn't wonder about that, but now it's so easy. You can know about the quality of waters, about the culinary world, about the food, or the economy of the country, the politics, the pollution level, what is happening in that destination, because you can see just in a second, in just a web page, you can get all the information. As you really said, people are more and more aware not to go to places where norms and regulations are not accepted and respected. So, and something that to me it's very important. When do we repeat our visit to a specific destination? There are many destinations where we repeat our visits. I don't know, maybe we went several times to London, and in Barcelona, it is a city that the people come many times. So you need to develop this kind of campaigns. You need to hook the visitors that visited you one time. If you go to a destination and you didn't like it, you won't never be there back. So it's like a product campaign. You buy it once, you should buy it another and another time. You need to work on that. You want people to come back again and again. Maybe the first time they want to see the main landmarks, but the second time they are going to see a show, they are going to go to the theater, they're going to visit museums, they are going to visit a specific restaurant or the wine culture. So I think that we need to work in the destinations, the idea of repeating. Some people, well, they only have the idea to visit that specific beautiful beach, but I think that many destinations have been aware of that, and they were able to overcome these kind of destinations, and you can discover other things different from the previous things that you discovered. You are able to get in the reality of local people. That's what you really want when you go to a destination. You want to see local things, things that are different from your own reality and your country. You know, I think that the most important thing when you travel, it is to bring back home something. When you come back from home, from the destination, what did you get as an individual? Not only sunbathing and you are tan. What about your mindset? Are you more open? Did you feel more alive? Your heart beat stronger than ever? Something happened that you will always recall for your life? Not only the days you were there, also what will happen in your future life when recalling the 15 days that you were in your destination, right? You need to see more things, not only sunbathing at the beach. That's the offer that the countries and cities should offer to tourists. Something that will make an impact on the individual, and these individuals will always want to come back. We talked about territory, we talked about nations and countries. Why do you think that it's easier? It's much easier to create a brand for a small territory or a country or a bigger country. What do you think, and why? Well, I think that's totally different. But at the end of the day, as we are talking about very specific values, I think that it's easier to talk about a specific territory. So we are centered on the offer, right? So we can talk about Spain, we can talk about the US, but inside the US and Spain, destinations are so different. What are the brands that work better? The ones related with the countries or the ones related with territories, cities? Well, it depends. Maybe a country brand will offer you some hints and ideas. It's a big brand, but in the end, you need to work on the territorial level because the value proposition is more specific. I think that Spain did a great job when launching the brand Spain. I don't know if you remember the logo that was designed by the painter Miró. You read the word Spain. So it offered you a different level of culture when compared with other countries, because he was an artist. And he said everything under the sun. Everything under the sun. So, in the end, we were different, because everything happens under the sun. An amazing climate, an amazing weather that you will never see in your country of origin. So it was a great campaign that later on was repeated by the Balearic Islands, Andalusia, and all the regions, as well as Bilbao. So all of the regions, they took advantage of that. So to sell a brand, it's always great to create a country brand. But for you to sell a product, you need to create a specific product. What are you offering when you sell the brand of your country? And inside the brand of Spain, you have amazing products that have always inside their own brands, such as the Balearic Islands, the Canary Islands, and many other regions. So, when answering to your question, I think that it will be easier to work for a tiny space, a destination, because they have their own specificities. What can you say about Andorra? You can say about Andorra that they have great mountains, you can go skiing in the winter, you can hike in the summer. So, but Mallorca, they will never talk about, let's say, surfing. You can go to Mallorca for surfing. So it's easier to create an image of a tiny area rather than a big country such as the US, that they have so many things that you need to cut the brand and the purpose of the brand. So it's easier to talk about small things, but it's much more attractive to go for big. Yeah, I think that the difficult aspect of a country brand is that it represents many things. It's quite interesting when we talk about destinations, and we are witnessing loads of destinations here, but you know, the US, they never had a country brand. Maybe 10 years ago they created. They had reference cities such as New York, Chicago, LA, that they were able to attract people. They had city brands, but they never had a country brand. But well, things change when you think about a destination. There are very young destinations, so to speak, and you have the capital and then the rest of the country. So the work that we do, it is to look for the essence of the destinations. It is easier to get focused on the essence of a city, a very specific city, rather than to find the essence of the whole country. You know that it already exists, the city branding, and it will exist also the territory branding. We have the country branding, and there is like a field in advertisement that it's called city branding. So the city is the product that you have to sell. You talk about general things. Let's talk about very specific things. I'd love to know what are the territories, cities, and countries that were able to position properly their brand, and what was the clue for their successes. Please be specific. Well, I don't know, but I think that there is kind of a ranking or a city classification. Global big cities, the most consolidated cities, we have the emerging cities, and new global cities. This can be applied for tourism and for investment. So we have this kind of rankings for cities. We have Paris, London, New York, Tokyo for the consolidated one. So for the emergence could be Seoul, Shanghai, and Bogota, huge and big cities. And then we have the new cities, the new global cities that are smaller cities with human size, with quality of life, and great culture offer. You have Berlin, Barcelona, you have Santiago de Chile, you have Sydney. So you can see and you can find that we have loads of successful cases, but many territories, they do it so. But, well, we can pick from then on, because the narrative and the discourse that you can offer for New York, Barcelona, Bogota, and some of the others, they will aspire to be in the first category, or it's not compatible. They are different classifications. I think that Barcelona has was not to compete against New York or London. I think that the competition is fierce in countries and territories, but they are different when we take into account the scale, the size. In Barcelona, we have a quality of life that maybe in such a huge city in China you can never find. So these values make the difference. I think that one of the best mottos and slogans in communication history that had to do with the countries says Reus, Paris, and London. Reus, Paris, and London. Yes, why didn't think about that before? Because it puts Reus in the map, which is a village, and amongst other cities in the world. So, when we talk about tourism communication and history, everything started with big competitors such as Paris, London, Rome, New York, San Francisco, or LA. But there are some cities that maybe to their size and the importance, they are quite attractive for the features. To me, Venice is the one that offers the feature instead of taking a car, you have to take a boat and to take the gondola. So you have to go there. It's a destination that you have to visit, whether you thought it was important or not to visit a city where you need to take a gondola. But this curiosity for you to see that instead of streets there are canals, this makes you to wanting visiting the city, right? The quality of the destination, it's important. The differentiation amongst others, the Egyptian pyramids, as we mentioned before. So, what are, in the end, the cities that offer a higher level of in tourism interest? The historical cities, the big capitals in the planet, but also that they have differences from a cultural perspective. So, Florence has an amazing history and a great culture, and it is the city that doesn't make a lot of advertisement, but many of us, we want to visit Florence and to know a little bit more about the history of Florence. What happens with the cities that do not have this kind of thing, such as the big capitals or cities that could offer something very attractive, such as Venice? Well, those cities, they should offer something different enough for people to decide to go there and not to go to another city. The buying decisions, you take it in a specific moment, right? The day has come. I have to decide where am I going for holidays. I have to take a decision today. And you need to have in mind the brand of your city for you to think about the city. If you never think about Florence, if Florence never told you anything in the last 10 years, you never think about Florence. Also, cities that have great things to offer, they constantly need to recall to all tourists that they exist. That's so important in advertisement. Your brand has to be always in the consumer's mind. When the consumer will take the decision, will think about you, and you will be one of the first choices. What an interesting question that you made. Who did it well? Well, I think that there are cities that didn't do anything at all. They were not able to create a brand. They had it before, such as Florence. It belongs to culture, it's heritage. So the work of those that we are creative people and we create brands, we have to make an effort to better communicate and to convey the message to attract people to come to our destination. So, such as the case of gondolas in Venice, but there are some mistakes when we communicate, where messages are not the final essence of the destinations. Maybe we cannot compare Egypt with the rest of the world. Sometimes they forget that the essence were pyramids, right? They cannot forget. Who did it well? Who did it badly? There are many examples all over the world. Many times those that did a good job job was because they had a history, great references, a good wood. And those that we work with brands, we need to accompany them to offer relevant information to consumers. Today, we must worry about niches, markets, and who are we talking to and how we are talking to. But never forget that we have a brand. It can be a culture brand, a sun and beach brand. We work with Miami City, well, and people always thought that they will reach to the beach and that's all. But they found a different reality. And sometimes before, Miami was known because you took a train in New York and you go to Miami. Today, you take a plane and you can go wherever you want. You can go also to the best beaches of Miami. So this connectivity allows us to visit all the destinations looking for what we really want. It's easier to go to Maldives today than before. So it took me 7 hours and a half. It's easy. I took a plane and I'll be back there. During my grandparents' times, when he went to Central America to New York, he had to take a boat for a whole month. So there are more competitors and competition spheres. We need to have a clear idea in mind. There is a slogan that we'll know, which is a great slogan. I love New York, from Milton Glasser. So a very subtle thing, and it was not only for the visitor, it was also for the New Yorkers. So this campaign, it's an amazing campaign, and still is a great campaign. It lasted, yeah, it lasts. There were many other initiatives such as I Am Amsterdam, with the letters and the graphics. They tried, but I Love New York, it's brutal. The great campaigns, they last forever. I remember slogans 20 years, 40 years ago that are still, and I Love New York, it's a great example of that. A brilliant idea with a very simple and neat graphics that many other countries copy. You can go to Tokyo and you can see in the souvenir shops, I love Tokyo, I love Paris, I love London, I love Alcorcón. I love, everybody's using that. Everybody is using I love. And it was a brilliant idea, very brilliant idea by Milton Glaser. You talked about design, advertisement when creating a brand. What's the importance that you offer to big events such as the Olympic Games or movies? Such as New York is New York, thanks to Woody Allen, right? What are the other elements that create the brand, city, territory?
En el caso del cine, por ejemplo, también rodó aquí en Barcelona, con lo cual, que era la de Vicky Cristina Barcelona, creo,
Buriani, he made a movie here in Barcelona, and Vicky Cristina Barcelona, and this offers you, and so the audience was bigger, the advertisement is fundamental on social media today. They're creating also campaigns, so in the end, it's people. When you are a visitor of a destination, you are the one that prescribed visiting this destination for the good and for the bad. The advertisement now, it's not anymore press, TV, or the internet. Advertisement is also content. When we talk about Manhattan in many movies, not only in Woody Allen's movies, people, they get an idea of New York in their heads. When we talk frequently about Washington, because it's the capital of the world where big decisions are taken, decisions that will have an impact on the humanity, well, you always have in your mind Washington. People that are not lucky enough, that are not shown in the movies, in the news, or on TV, well, they have to create something. They have to create content for them to be important, such as Larson books. People think about what is happening in Nordic countries in Europe. Were they Finland, Sweden, and Norway touristic countries? Yes, they were. But once you have literature talking about those countries, maybe you think about visiting those countries. So all has a reason to be, and all has an impact on our decision. We were talking about Bilbao a few minutes ago, and we talked about Barcelona. When they do not have this reference, absorbing events, creating culture, makes possible to have a great conversation and a new perspective. Being able to all the world to look to Barcelona and building the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao. So this makes that people want to visit, and the Olympic Games, a very big event, to attract and to start this new conversation. And if you're able to do it properly, you will keep on growing as Barcelona did it. Mobile World Congress is visited for more than 100,000 people. It's an extraordinary event for our city, not for the money that people buy here in the city. These 100,000 people, they had a previous idea about 15 days in the city without having to come to the Mobile World Congress. So if they had fun, they felt comfortable in the hotel, if they had great lunch and great food, visiting from the outside the gaudy works, maybe this person will think to come back again to visit Barcelona to know better what it tasted in just some hours visiting the Congress. So they are 100,000 prescriptors. There is kind of a rivalry for being the headquarters of these kind of events, cultural events and sports events such as the Olympic Games, and also to host such events like the Mobile World Congress, right? So this rivalry among cities exists. Yes, there is a crystal clear example. Barcelona hosted during the World Football in the 1982, I guess. So Barcelona was the city host of the Italian national team. After that World Champions, championship, many Italian tourists came back. It was kind of a miracle. They came back with their families. So something like soccer attracted many people. Well, only came the head of the family during the World Championship, football championship. Well, and suddenly all the family members came to the city. Everything helps. Every little helps when you do things properly. That's why when you visit the ministries of tourism or tourism bureaus, they have lots of strategies, meetings, conventions, conferences, culture, museums. So inside the tourism bureaus, there are different responsibles to attract different people. As Isabel mentioned before, we need people to repeat the visit. If you are in a hotel or a destination, each and every factor that can be measured, it's the level of repetition. So we can see the value on investment and everything, right? We are also able to make some surveys to know the satisfaction level and the repetition level. There was something that we forgot, that it's very important. It has to do with price. When someone has to buy, we not only think about what we buy, but also we think about the price. Many years, Catalonia and Barcelona, prices were very good to us. They compared with many other places, such as the French Riviera. In our area, restaurants are cheaper and hotels were cheaper. So this competitive advantage, we cannot lose that. When we'll be as expensive as France or the UK, less tourists will come to visit us. So prices are always important. Well, we still have a few minutes to close this panel about the impact on strategic communication and country brand. And in order to conclude, tell me, talk about a destination you'd like to visit today. After this discussion, where would you like to go? For holidays, to visit, and why, Isabel?
Well, personally, I have a list of wishes, destination wishes, places where I would like to go. I am eager to go, or some places where I would like to travel back. Patagonia, for example. In Chile, or the Chilean or the Argentinian? Well, both of them. I don't know, since I was very young, for the landscape, the animals. I am very animalistic and I would like Patagonia. For business reasons, I've traveled all over the world many times. I guess that I have traveled more than 4,000. I made 4,000 flights. I would repeat in many places, but where would I like to go? Sincerely, I would say I would love to go to the space, to see the Earth from the top. Nowadays, we can travel to the space. We have this bucket list. Yesterday I was the Ministry of Tourism of Georgia, and she reminded me of this destination I would like to know Tbilisi in Georgia. So let's take these three proposals. Marta Sugrañas, I will invite her to come back on stage. We all want to travel now. Well, any of these places would be on my wish list. It was a pleasure to listen to you and to learn from you, because one of the goals was learning to face the challenges of the tourism for the future. We've learned many things among these 2 days: the importance of technology, of smart tourism, protection of the tourist, the inclusive tourism, and of course
These are the conclusions.
country brand.
We say goodbye. It has been 2 days of passionate and interesting debates about the future of tourism. More than 100 participants have joined in the discussion tables, 20 tourism ministers from around the world, former heads of state and government, and representatives of international organizations, business associations, and knowledge network have contributed to this meeting. The result of this meeting, this summit, is reflected in the Barcelona Declaration, a document that aims to become an international benchmark to move towards a new, more innovative, ethical, and sustainable tourism model. Thanks to the organizers of this World Summit, INCIDE Foundation of the Spanish Chambers of Commerce, to the Advanced Leadership Foundation and the United Nations World Tourism Organization. It's a pleasure to work with these luxury organizers, and thanks also to all the sponsors and participants, and special thanks also to His Majesty the King of Spain, El Rey de España, for accepting the honorary presidency of this summit. We are looking forward to seeing you at the next one. Gracias a todos y hasta pronto.